Military police are law enforcement agencies connected with, or part of, the military of a state. Description: the word can have different meanings in different countries, and may refer to a section of the military responsible for policing the areas of responsibility of the armed forces against all criminal activity by military or civilian personnel. A section of the military responsible for policing in both the armed forces and in the civilian population. A section of the military solely responsible for policing the civilian population. The preventative police forces of each Brazilian state, responsible for policing the civilian population, which become auxiliary forces of the Brazilian army in time of war. The status of military police is usually prominently displayed on the helmet and/or on an armband, brassard, or armor shoulder flash. In the Second World War, the military police of the German army still used a metal gorget as an emblem. Naval police members are sometimes called masters-at-arms. Asia, Cambodia, the gendarmerie, or military police, known as the Royal Gendarmerie of Cambodia, is a paramilitary unit with about 7,000 soldiers deployed in all provinces. It is headquartered in Phnom Penh. The unit's chain of command is through the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces High Command. The Royal Gendarmerie of Cambodia is deployed in every province and cities to keep the law and order. Military police in Cambodia play an important role in Cambodia's society, keeping law and order in cities along with the national police. India: the core of military police is the military police of the Indian Army. In addition, the CMP is trained to handle prisoners of war and to regulate traffic, as well as to handle basic telecommunication equipment such as telephone exchanges. They can be identified by the red berets, white lanyards and belts, and they also wear a black brassard with the letters MPM printed in red. Internal policing duties in a regiment are handled by the regimental police, who are soldiers of the unit who are assigned to policing tasks for a short period of time. They are essentially used to regulate traffic, and can be identified by a black brassard with the letters RP embossed in gold or white. The Indian Air Force is policed by the Indian Air Force Police. They can be identified by the white peaked caps, white lanyards and belts. They also wear a black brassard with the letters IFPM printed in red. The Indian Navy has the Navy Police, and they can be identified by a black brassard with the letters NP in gold, with the state emblem placed in between the N and the P. Indonesia: in Indonesia, the military police are known as Korps Polisi Militer, or simply Polisi Militer. They are the police of the military armed forces organization in charge of enforcing discipline and the maintenance of law and order in the military environment and for military purposes. They serve as policing units in the armed forces. The military police of Indonesia also perform duties in the area of law enforcement involving members of the military, installation of security, escort, protection of senior military officers and/or important government officials, setting and supervising prisoners of war, controlling custody of military prisoners, managing military traffic control and marking and managing routes and resupply routes for military and civilian purposes. Indonesian military police are identifiable with the blue berets and also wear white helmet printed PM and dark blue brassard worn on their upper left sleeve printed PM. There are 3 military police corps in Indonesia, which are POMAD for the Army, POMAL for the Navy, and POMAU for the Air Force. Provosts: a provost in Indonesia, shortened, secures, supervises and maintains discipline in a battalion or a regimental headquarter of the military, which is specifically different from the military police. Its area of responsibility for enforcing discipline and order is only limited to inside the military complex which it is given authority, and not beyond. It is also known as the regimental police in Commonwealth countries. The Indonesian provost soldiers are usually posted in the entrances of a military base and are identifiable with their dark blue brassard printed Prov worn on their upper left sleeve. Iran-Israel. The Israeli Military Police Corps is the military police provost of the Israel Defense Forces. It also helps monitor Israeli military prisons. At times of emergency, enemy detainees are held and sorted by the military police. The Corps has very little civilian jurisdiction and for that reason works in conjunction with the Israeli police when civilians are involved. The Israel Border Police is Israel's gendarmerie equivalent. Japan. During World War II, the Kempeitai were the military police of the Imperial Japanese Army and the Tokaitai were the military police of the Imperial Japanese Navy. They also performed intelligence and secret police functions and were active in Japan and its occupied territories. They were at the forefront of committing Japanese war crime against Asian neighbors. Today's Japan Self-Defense Forces maintain military police units called the Kimutai. Malaysia. The Korpolis Tentara Diraja performs military police duties in the Malaysian Army. Apart from enforcing discipline and conduct of members of the Army, the Corps oversees security of designated Army installations, performs escort and ceremonial duties, and assists civil law enforcement authorities. The Korpolis Tentara is also tasked with crime prevention and investigating criminal activities on Army property or by military personnel. With its roots in the British Royal Military Police, members of the Korpolis Tentara Diraja also wear the distinctive red peaked cap, white lanyard and belt, as well as a black brassard with the letters PTM printed. PT stands for Polis Tentara, the Malay words for military police. Military police on traffic duty wear armbands sporting the letters MP in red. Pakistan. Since the establishment and inception of the Pakistan Armed Forces, they have maintained their own military police. The Pakistan Army received its share of Muslim personnel from the former Royal Indian Military Police, forming the Pakistan Army Military Police or MP. Later, the Pakistan Navy established the Naval Police, with its centre commissioned at PNS Niaban, and the Pakistan Air Force later established the PAF Police to maintain order. The Pakistan Navy's Naval Police can be identified by the red armbands with the letters NP written in white. They are headquartered at PNS Kashim in Karachi. The Pakistan Army's military police is known as the Pakistan Army Corps of Military Police. They can be identified by the red armbands, white cross belts and white combat helmets with the letters MP written in white. The Pakistan Air Force established its own military police, known as the Pakistan Air Force Police, commonly referred to as Provost. The PAF Police can be identified by the red armlets, white cross belts and white combat helmets with PAF Police written in red. The MP, NP and the PAF Police do not exercise any jurisdiction over civilians, nor can the civil courts interfere in the operations of the military police. In some cases the military police corps have worked with civilian police agencies if civilians are involved. Philippines. The Philippine Armed Forces currently maintains its own military police distinct from the nation's civilian force. The American-established Philippine Constabulary was also known as the Military Police Command, pursuant to Republic Act 6975. The PC and the Integrated National Police merged to form the civilian Philippine National Police, and was placed under the Department of Interior and Local Government. Sri Lanka. Each branch of the Sri Lankan Armed Forces has its own military police provost section. The Sri Lanka Army is policed by the Sri Lanka Corps of Military Police and by regimental police, who belong to each individual regiment's corps. The military police force carries out the following missions. Maintenance of order and discipline consists of monitoring, maintaining and, if necessary, re-establishing discipline and military order. This also involves controlling stragglers and refugees in times of war and guarding and escorting prisoners of war. Security missions prevents and deters any threat to or attack against the personnel and property of the armed forces. MPs also provide VIP motorcycle escorts and honor guards, perform close protection missions and escort classified documents and money transports. The Sri Lanka Navy is policed by the Provost Branch. The Sri Lanka Air Force is policed by the Air Force Police. Singapore. In Singapore, the Singapore Armed Forces Military Police Command serves as the law enforcement agency of the Singapore Armed Forces. The command is headed by a colonel, otherwise also known as the Provost Marshal. Its subunits included the Military Police Enforcement Unit, the Detention Barracks, the 1st Provost BN, MP Training School and the Security Support Forces. The command also collaborates closely with the Singapore Police Force in terms of policing work duties, investigations, etc. South Korea. Taiwan. The ROCMP is responsible for enforcing military law, maintaining military discipline, providing backup for the civilian police force serving as combat troops during times of emergency, providing security for certain government buildings, including the presidential building in Taipei City, as well as performing counter-terrorism and VIP protection operations. The ROCMP are also charged with the defense of the capital Taipei, Thailand. In Thailand, each branch of the armed forces has its own military police force. The Royal Thai Navy has the Royal Thai Army has and the Royal Thai Air Force has the. The duties of the Air Military Police Department are peacekeeping, security, regulating traffic discipline within Air Force installations and housing areas, apprehending deserters, escorting VIPs and investigating crimes under the authority of the military court. These investigations include prisoners of war, enemy aliens, refugees and displaced officers within the Air Force and designated areas. It is under supervision of the commander of the Air Military Police Department. There is one active Air MP battalion called the Battalion of Military Air Police. The Air Military Police Department is one unit under the supervision of the Office of Don Mueang RTAF Base Commander. Office of Don Mueang RTAF Base Commander. Air Military Police Department. Battalion of Military Air Police. Vietnam. In Vietnam, the 144th Brigade of Military Guard is under the command of the General Staff of the Vietnam People's Army. Vietnam Military Guard is responsible for guarding and protecting the presidential palace, government offices and army offices. Vietnam military surveillance is also under the command of the General Staff and responsible for supervising military laws on soldiers and officers. Australia. In the Australian Army, the Royal Australian Corps of Military Police also performs the role of a secondary communications network in the front battle zone. In the Royal Australian Navy, the Naval Police Coxswain Branch performs dual roles of performing general police duties, investigation of criminal offences and a secondary role of ship's coxswain staff responsible for administration of ship's personnel. In the Royal Australian Air Force, the Royal Australian Air Force Security Police perform the military police role, and train military working dogs for the Royal Australian Air Force, while the Royal Australian Corps of Military Police train their own working dogs for a more infantry combat role. All major crimes committed by or against personnel of the Australian Defence Force are investigated by the Australian Defence Force Investigative Service. New Zealand. New Zealand Defence Force Military Police. In December 2014 it was announced that the New Zealand Army Military Police (RNZ) Air Naval Police, and the RNZAF Force Protection Service Police would merge to form a new tri-service military police unit. This would involve 12 paralines for the Royal New Zealand Air Force, 13 paralines for the Royal New Zealand Navy and 46 paralines for the NZ Army. Service personnel still maintain their own service identity but operate under a single Provost Marshal and investigate offences against the Armed Forces Discipline Act 1971. The NZDF military police operates outside of the normal Navy, Army and Air Force command structure. The current Provost Marshal is a group captain who reports directly to the Vice Chief of the NZDF. At all NZDF facilities, civilian staff are used to augment physical security manpower, particularly for relatively simple tasks like ID checking and security patrols. A joint investigative unit would also be formed to investigate more serious offences with senior investigators from all three services making up. This unit will be known as the Serious Investigations Branch. It will have a similar role to the Australian Defence Force Investigative Service. NZDF military police also provide the close protection function for the NZDF. Only personnel from within the NZDF military police are able to attend the Tier 1 course and undergo a rigorous selection process. From time to time, NZ police officers from Diplomatic Protection Squad and the Armed Defenders Squad have been known to also complete the course. All New Zealand Defence Force military police are identifiable by the blue and white MP patch they wear on the uniform and a blue beret as headdress. The wearing of the blue beret differs from many Commonwealth military police units as traditionally a red beret is worn.